Hiya there, today we're going to look at a 10-mark Describe question. That 10-mark Describe question is: describe what types of crimes high status people are more likely to be involved in. I'm going to take you through the structures of answering the question as well as the content that I would place in there. So obviously Describe question I'll be looking to be using between 3 and 4 paragraphs. It is a Describe question, so you need to make sure you describe the reasons. You do not need to go into mass detail. I have put on there PEE or REE, which is a way of structuring your paragraphs, which is slightly contrasting, but I've said don't go into explanation because it's point, evidence, effect, or reason, explain and give example, but you can change that as obviously in relation to describe. And be looking in an example, be spending between 10 and 15 minutes on the question. Okay, so there's 3 areas that I would go down with this question. I would firstly look at white collar crime, and I would talk about what white collar crime is. So white collar crime, at its simplest, is a crime committed by middle class people. It usually refers to certain types of crimes which may be linked to a person's job. White collar crimes are not obvious and for several reasons may be hard to detect and may not be reported. Examples of white collar crime are fraud, bribery, inside trading, and things like that. So white collar crimes are not violent and usually involve money. The term comes from the fact that middle class workers traditionally wore a white collar and tie, so that's where white collar crimes come from. The next one I would talk about is occupational crime, and that's crimes that are linked to people's jobs. Okay, so an occupational crime is a crime that is linked to your job and often involves money or taking something without consent and things like that. So high status people often commit crimes, but frauds and things like that. Thirdly, I would talk about corporate crime, and corporate crime is basically crimes that are committed by big businesses. And some examples I've put on here is the horse meat scandal by the supermarkets Tesco's, Little Iceland and Aldi, where there was false advertisement. Other examples would involve the Hillsborough disaster, or in fact the thalidomide outbreak about 50 years ago, where doctors were prescribing tablets to pregnant women to prevent morning sickness, but in fact it was damaging the baby inside the lady. You can also talk about builders and things like that. If people do work that is not adequate, or it's they've cut corners which could cause injuries, and that's another example of corporate crime, and obviously links in a little bit to occupational crime. Okay, so there's 3 areas that I would focus on with this question, but to start with, in the first paragraph I would actually identify what we actually mean by status and just have an opening sentence, but is talking about status is linked to someone's position in society. So some of the high status is someone like a doctor, a lawyer, surgeon, jobs that have particularly got high status. So like I say, first paragraph will describe what we mean by someone with a high status, and that'll just be a few sentences. My next paragraph I would talk about white collar crime and the background behind it, what I said earlier, and crimes that are linked to that. Then moving on to looking and talking about occupational crime, and then lastly I would talk about corporate crime, giving you the 4 paragraph structure. So I hope that's supported you, and I hope that's helped. Thank you very much.